I got asked by a subscriber on how to make a video about how to prepare yourself for a calisthenics competition. And I thought to myself, I don't think anybody has ever made a video about this topic, so I'm gonna be the first. If that sounds interesting, let's get into it. In this video, I will be sharing my own experience and thoughts about how to properly prepare yourself for a calisthenics competition. I have only done one calisthenics competition in my life, which I won, but I had a lot of experiences when it comes to competitions in general. I did a sport called wushu where I did a lot of competitions, so I know a little bit about how to properly prepare yourself for a competition. I'm gonna divide my tips into 3 categories, which are gonna be before the competition, during the competition and after the competition. So my first tip is know the rules of the competition and know how the judges are judging. This of course can vary from competition to competition. For example, static competitions are different than freestyle competitions, but it's always important to know the rules. I was amazed at how many athletes in my own competition didn't know the rules before they were competing. I find that really crazy. If you know the rules and if you know how the judges are judging, you can develop your rounds before the competition to try to get the maximum amount of points. Which leads me to tip number 2, which is prepare your rounds. Something I did to be more confident during my competition is that I had planned out all my rounds. When you have planned out your rounds, you should be able to get a really high score because you're showing all the elements that the judges are going to be judging on. Having your rounds planned out also makes you look more confident and less stressed. There are a lot of people that come up with their combination on the spot, and sometimes that makes them look a little bit stressed or not really knowing what they're doing. Planning out your rounds, of course, is also depending on the competition you're participating in. For example, if you're participating in a battle structure competition, you need to be ready to also improvise. If you see that your opponent is doing a harder or a better round than you have prepared, you need to be ready to improvise on the spot. Because if you don't do that, you probably won't win against your opponent. A side tip about preparing your rounds is to focus on endurance. Because if you do not focus on endurance, you will always lose from the person that has rock solid endurance and did focus on that. Because the main aspect about a competition is endurance. And if you don't have endurance, you might as well not even compete at all. So really focus on endurance. Tip number 3 is to lose body fat before your competition. Calisthenics is a bodyweight sport, so in general, the less you weigh, the easier everything will be.
No shit.
And for a competition, it is very important to be the best and the strongest version of yourself during that competition. Find a suitable diet that fits your lifestyle and allows you to lose body fat. If you do not have a lot of experience with this, try to find somebody that does have a lot of experience with getting leaner and losing body fat. Especially when you're in a caloric deficit, the risk of getting injured is really high. So be careful and try to find somebody that can help you with this. And my last tip before the competition is to have also enjoyable trainings during your prep for the competition. During my prep, I was 5 weeks before the competition, I was only doing competition-based training, which means I was doing 4 times a week the exact same training.
Oh, hell no!
And you can guess it, it got boring really quickly. So I suggest you to have competition-based training, but also trainings you can enjoy, because those are really important as well to have the best experience of getting ready for the competition. But make sure when you do enjoyable trainings, you don't go crazy, because you're probably on a diet and the chances of getting injured is high. So be careful, don't go all out, but try to have some enjoyable trainings. So we arrived to tips during the competition. So my first tip will be when you get to the venue where the competition is held to get in the zone. This is very depending from person to person. I like to do is just my first hour, just chill with other participants and just have a nice time. But when it's almost showtime, I like to isolate myself, put in some earbuds and really focus on my round that is coming up. Of course, this doesn't work for everybody, but I would suggest you to at least 20 minutes before your round, try to get in a focus zone.
Strong focus on what I want.
Whatever that is for you, you can leave it up to for yourself. If you want to isolate yourself, that's all good. If you want to be present with your friends and socialize, that's also good. Just make sure you're ready and locked in, focused for the round that is coming up. Because if you're focused, your round will probably go better. Second tip might be a little bit strange, but I would suggest you to have a friend or a couple of friends record you during your competition. I was very happy that I had a couple of friends recording me during my competition, so that afterwards I could look back at my clips to see what went wrong and what went well. Of course, this is also smart if you're posting on socials to have some some footage about your competition. But besides that, it's also nice to look back at it a couple weeks afterwards, or even a couple months or years, just to see how much progress you've made. Nowadays, almost every competition is filming their participants, but I would still advise you to have some friends record you, because you don't know if you get that footage, so you will always be sure to have your own footage. And my last tip during the competition is to enjoy the moment. I know a competition can be nerve-wracking and your mind is going through so many places, but I really want you to take a second just to enjoy the moment, because you have worked really hard to be there, to be at that competition, and before you know it, the whole day is over, the competition is over. So just take a second and enjoy the moment. And some tips after the competition. My first tip will be to take a deload week after your competition. Even though you might feel like you don't need a deload week, it is very important to still take one. I made this mistake after my competition. I didn't take a deload week. I took only 2 days off and went back to really hard training because I was very excited. I could do whatever I wanted. I didn't have to do any competition-based trainings, and I went full sended and I got injured. My body just wasn't yet ready to go back to hard training after such a stressful period. Because I was on diet, I had just all the stress of the competition, I had the competition done where I just went over the edge, of course, because it's a competition. Yeah, I made that mistake and I've regretted that a lot. So please don't make this mistake because you will regret it a lot. It is not a bad thing to have a week off or just have a deload week after your competition. Matter of fact, it is even good for you, I would say, because your body can deal with all the stress that it needs to get rid of, and after that week you can go full send it again. And my last step of today will be to develop some competition combinations during your off season. If you have some competition combinations during your off season, your preparation for the competition doesn't need to be that long. I personally made this mistake as well. I never really mixed dynamics with statics before the competition, so I had a really hard time like getting those two at one and having it perfect. So if you can mix those two or just have combinations you know for a fact you can grab everywhere on every competition and just on any bar, your preparation will just be a lot smoother. So these were my tips on how to properly prepare yourself for a competition. These were all again based on my own thoughts and experiences. So I hope it was helpful and gave you an insight on how to prepare yourself. Let me know down below in the comments if these tips were helpful for you. That would really mean a lot to me. If you want a secret plans progression, I recommend you to check out this video next. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. If you have some recommendations or topics you want me to cover, let them know down below in the comments as well. Hope to see you in the next one, guys. Peace out.